Good afternoon, everyone. This is Elaine Grohman on Earth Wisdom Circles on Empower Radio. You know, everyone is quite aware that we're in very interesting times. And as an energy healer, as an intuitive, I have the great pleasure and honor of working with individuals to help them find ways to really begin to identify with their own spirit and be aware of the gift that this life is. So today I wanted to talk about ceremonies. And in the last few years, I have had the real deep experiences of understanding how ceremony deepens our connections with life. And what I mean by that is, as human beings in a very, right now, contentious and divisive world, we are very easily misled into focusing solely on the thoughts that are rumbling through our mind or the challenges that we witness on the media and all kinds of complications. And we forget that we, as human beings, are deeply connected to life. But because of many organizations, religion, cultures, literally are the organizations in which we work, in which we worship, in which we gather, we are entrained to believe in being separate from one another, being members of particular groups, particular organizations, particular ideologies, particular thought patterns. And what it does is it begins to separate us from ourselves and causes us to really hold on to the belief that we identify with that may or may not be healthy, that may or may not be true, that may or may not be collaborative in seeing all of life as a gift to us all. So I want to do a little bit of definition so that you can understand why I'm speaking about ceremony versus what some individuals might think of rituals or particular processes that people think they need to do in order to adhere to particular ideologies. Ceremony is actually, and again, religion and events have sequestered words, used words, and twisted the meanings of words so that we really don't often understand what it is we're saying or what it is we're doing. In this context, the ceremony that I am speaking about was beautifully illustrated and experienced by myself. I should say illustrated to me and helped to deepen and enrich my understanding of what it means to be a human being. So it was truly with Indigenous elders, those who for centuries and centuries and centuries, literally tens of thousands of years, worked very hard to help others understand their intimate connection with life, that we are not simply human beings experiencing life, we are life itself. We are participants with life. We cannot live without being in collaboration, and our experiences are interwoven into everything that we are with, everything that we experience, and everything that supports our lives. So I'm going to give a little bit of disclaimer. I was raised Catholic in an Irish Catholic home. And so my initial upbringing, having gone to a parochial school from 1st into 10th grade, and all of my siblings as well, was we're all often born into situations that we don't necessarily understand, but we can be quote unquote indoctrinated into certain things. And I remember being forced to go to church sometimes every day during particular times of the year. And as a child, it seemed punitive. As a child, it seemed very confusing and at times forced. And there was times where I remember sitting in the church wondering, what is this all about? And I do remember quite honestly looking up at the front of the church at a mural that was painted of an image of the crucifixion. And I thought, what on earth? Why would we do something like this to another human being? So we are presented with images and thoughts and belief systems that can glorify suffering, that can make us separate as the good guys and the bad guys. Like, obviously, if someone is crucified, someone has done this to them. And we can get all muddled in our mind and instill fear in those who don't understand, regardless of your age. And so, to me, going to Mass became an obligation and not something that I personally necessarily looked forward to. But there were times where I did, actually. But I understood that there was a difference between doing something that was a quote unquote ritual, or in religious context, they might call it a sacramental way of being, which sacrament is kind of goes hand in hand with particular rites that you obtain, which to me still created confusion. And later in my life, I was very privileged and have been very privileged and continue to be so, to understand the great distinction between ceremony. Ceremony is a way and a means by which we invite our minds to open. We experience things beyond our thinking, beyond our limited perceptions in the moment. And it can offer us ways in which we can literally embrace what is already embracing us, meaning life. And ceremony is a way of beginning to have a conversation with life itself, so that we can begin to open our minds and open our hearts and open the doors that have often been locked and closed and labeled as private or for this group or that group only, that has intended to block inquiry. Ceremony is an invitation for inquiry, to learn how to begin to appreciate the fact that you and I, of our own conscious awareness in this life, don't really know how it is that we got here, other than the physiological coming together of a sperm and an egg. But what are these beautiful, mysterious components of our physiology that is so intimate with life, that is so bursting with potential and possibility? And that is ourselves. So ceremony is never a rote experience, meaning it is not a habitual thing that you can do correctly or incorrectly in terms of exact language, like a rote prayer might be. It is a personal invitation that you are receiving from life and opening that invitation. So, through the great wisdom of Indigenous elders, I began to understand the significance of becoming willing to close your mind off to chatter that we distract ourselves with and really open our minds up to new ways of seeing the world, new ways of working with one another, new ways of observing truths, new ways of finding possibilities to solve challenges that are surrounding us and drawing us our attention away from true collaborative relationships with one another, with life, and with the world, and mostly with ourselves. So, in the wisdom that I have understood is when we have, as human beings, been entrained to become, especially in the Western world, very materialistic, that somehow we are owed something. And we forget what is it that we owe respect to? What is it that we owe our loyalty to? Loyalty meaning upholding the continual relationship that is supportive of life, not controlling of life. And so, if you are aware of different ceremonies, for instance, there is a beautiful whole body of teaching that has to do with following what life is doing and demonstrating for us every single day. So, one ceremony, which is again something that you do for yourself, and sometimes alone, sometimes with the small group, sometimes with a larger group. For instance, this morning I went out and did a ceremony that I was taught many years ago, which is simply going out in the morning, facing the east, and thanking the sun for opening another day. The sun has always been and will always be, as long as it's in existence, a member of a larger body of beings called stars. Our sun is a star, but this beautiful star is close to us, obviously, in our solar system, and we are dependent upon it in ways that we do not even really comprehend. But we depend upon it as the lifting of the veil from the dark of the night to what we refer to as dawn, the beginning of watching the absolute consistency of the dawning of a new day. So we have an opportunity to go out and greet the sun. Going out and greeting the sun, often, well, as I did this morning with some tobacco in my hand. Tobacco, I'll explain in a moment. But just recognizing that as a human being, I have been given a day. I have been given the opportunity to start and to experience another day in this beautiful cumulative journey that I call my life. And it helps me to really appreciate and gather within myself what it means to be a mother, a grandmother, a wife, a sister, a friend. that it is because a new day has dawned, the sun is rising, our day star is sharing its beauty and its warmth and its unbelievable creative potentials with us, that we get to experience this extraordinary gift called life. So, ceremony is our opportunity as individuals to acknowledge life, to acknowledge that we not only have a life, but we are a life being lived. And in that time, Indigenous elders, Indigenous people also use the term prayer, but it is very different than the concept of a rote prayer, such as I learned as a child. The Our Father, the Hail Mary, which are beautiful prayers, but each are tinged with a little bit of we have done something wrong, to deliver us from evil, to prevent us from having a challenge, to see how we must believe certain things. And so ceremonial prayer, or the prayer of inviting life to ourselves, is hopefully eliminates any fear-based ideologies and fear-based thoughts. What it does, however, is it deepens our capacity to open ourselves to new possibilities, to open ourselves into recognizing how we ourselves may have created challenges in our lives, or how we ourselves may not have worked in the best way to preserve life, to enhance the open communication or the ability for others to have what they need to thrive. And it opens a space for us, for me in particular, to examine my thoughts, to examine how I am choosing to be in the world. And so it's a deep reminder that I am only alive because life is supporting me. I am only alive because I have a healthy body. I am alive because the air is clean and it knows how to support my physiology. I am alive because there's food and there is water and there is land. And that millions upon millions of things are working collaboratively with us. And because of that, we can join and enjoin in relationships of all kinds. And so to put tobacco out means that you are offering back to earth, the living earth, before you ask for what it is that you would like, before you ask for something to occur that you would like to have. Because many times in life we pray for something to happen. And often that is driven by our personal desires for things. But we are meant to be willing to see how things are working or not working, how relationships are working or not working, how governance is working or not working, so that we can honestly look at what is working and continue to uphold that and strengthen it, and to begin to step away from what isn't working, so that there is no longer the need to fight and to hold on to the unworkable. Because minute by minute and day by day, our lives are ticking by. And we want our lives to be much fuller and much more inclusive and expanding our awareness. So tobacco was never meant to be something that we just sit around and smoke like we know is done today. Tobacco is a medicinal herb. It is a sacred herb, one of the four most powerful sacred herbs. One being tobacco, another being sweetgrass, another being cedar, and sage, white sage. And imagine before we ask for something for ourselves as we begin our day, we go out, as I did this morning, just to thank that I have the opportunity to have this day. And holding tobacco in my hand, it's like giving to Mother Earth my worries, my thoughts, my vibration in a beautiful substance that is grown from the earth itself, which becomes like a beautiful medicinal tea, if you will. It has medicinal properties that can demonstrate in a way, and this is my understanding, and I know that it's much, much greater than this, a demonstration of how we as individuals are contributing with life and to life. That we recognize that I am giving something back because I am being given something. So it opens a space within our minds to begin to interact with life in a much more benevolent, joyful, inclusive way. And as that communication deepens, just like as we as individuals learn to communicate, then we have the opportunity to strengthen relationships. If we are divisive in how we are speaking and how we interact with one another, which is very clearly around us all the time, in the political arena, in the medical world, in the educational world, in interpersonal relationships, we have forgotten that things are meant to be workable, not meant to be difficult. If there is a difficulty, then there is a problem with working with life. So tobacco is this beautiful way to help us understand that there is this intimacy that allows us to stand as human beings at a precipice of awareness, of deepening and enriching our understanding of what it means to be collaborative, what it means to be workable. But our experience as humans is that we often don't know how to deal with ourselves and to reconcile the things that are working and things that are not working. And so we have a tendency to blame others, where in reality we are meant to figure out, is something workable or not workable? Is something opening like the beautiful petals of a flower that let us begin to appreciate the beauty of things that as they unfold. Imagine as a flower opens, then it releases its fragrance. And in our relationships with one another and our relationships with the world and the earth, as things begin to open, all of our sensory perceptions become capable of maturing. We live right now in an immature world. The earth herself is essentially a baby, even though it's millions and millions and millions of years old. But we can look around the solar system. We look because of our the wise individuals who have the capacity to look beyond the stars and see what is out there, and that there's many planets that have already exhausted their life cycle for whatever reason, whether it was uninhabitable to what we refer to as life, but maybe habitable in other ways. And so Our earth is brimming with life, but we have mistakenly and arrogantly and foolishly believed that our actions have no consequence and our words have no depth of interaction, and that our sitting on the sidelines and doing nothing will somehow disconnect us from the problem. And this is not true. So imagine, if you would, just to give an example, imagine if the air selectively decided who could or could not breathe. Imagine the disastrous experience if there was this volitions thought, this conscious action by earth and the air of which lives upon the earth and is created by the earth. This life is benevolent, life is creative, life is ongoing, life is encouraging the betterment of everything. And as the earth herself births with the eruption of volcanoes, etc., etc., new lands are created. But what are we doing to recreate or participate in the creation of new landscapes, new ways of being? So ceremony is one way of deepening this connection. There are no singular ceremonies. And as you begin to give yourself the gift of taking the time to thank the day as the sun rises and greet the day, as thank you, life, for this life. And at the end of the day, as the sun is going down, appreciate that you just had the conclusion in our minds, in our concept of time and days and cycles. Something is being completed. And if you take a moment in your mind and in your heart and look at, what did you learn? What did I learn? What did I willingly or unwillingly participate in? What did I help to grow, or what did I help to destroy? What did I help to explain actions or hide actions? Am I making life workable and better for others, or am I just having my way? We get to, if we're honest and willing, we can learn so much about being a collaborative part of life. So there's also beautiful opportunities to go and stand at the water, appreciate the water. What does this mysterious liquid substance really do for us? How is it that we can hold it in our hands momentarily and it can somehow be consumed into our body, used by our body? It becomes visible in the mist. It becomes tangible in the rains. It becomes evident in the snow. But it's this mysterious element, this mysterious being that we truly do not understand. And what we have mistakenly done is we ignore what we do not understand. Or worse, we harm what we do not understand. And ceremony is a way of, without substances that we need to ingest or take, which unfortunately has caused many challenges for individuals where they believe that they must take a substance in order to somehow connect. This is kind of misguided in my thinking, because we have the capacity within ourselves to open our sensory perceptions, to examine our own thoughts, actions, and discover what we're doing. Is it workable? Is it unworkable? So, what I have been consciously trying to do as I have gotten older and matured is to be more inclusive of my own experience with life so that I can begin to understand how life is working with us and for us. And as a healer, which is something I've been doing for nearly 25 years, is embrace and begin to witness the amazing ways that life is bringing us to either the conclusion of a life, the conclusion of a day, the conclusion of a way of thinking, the conclusion of a way of being, so that we can open the doors and open the possibilities, throw open the windows to new ways of working collaboratively. As we get enamored with and distracted by media, and this is why I just have to stop for a moment and thank deeply Brent Carey, who had the foresight and the wisdom and the tenacity to really struggle to create Empower Radio, because he knew that there had to be a better way. And I'm really honored and privileged to work with individuals like the gentleman today, Tony, who is my producer today, and my past producers and current producer, Kojo, and others that I've had the privilege of working with, Remy. And how do we begin to work together to bring something better out there? And I'm really privileged and grateful to have this opportunity to have a platform to help others think differently, to perhaps open their hearts to ways that their lives can be much more free of stress, or much more open to the possibilities of why we're here. So I just wanted to just a moment thank Brent for his wisdom and his heart for making it even possible for Empower Radio to exist. And as the name implies, literally to empower people to be their best selves, empower people to find a way to look at things in a different way rather than just contribute to chaotic rhetoric that does nothing but waste our time, waste our days, waste our hours, and waste our lives. So as we begin to appreciate the changes that are happening right now, and I do mean appreciate, I often say to people when they're stressed or they found that something has happened that they don't like, that they don't, that gets them riled up, I ask people to just stop for a moment, and I attempt to help people to learn how to be grounded so that the energy of the earth is moving through them and they can calm down and begin to actually think. This is also a ceremony. It's a way of opening yourself to expand our own awareness of what our bodies are capable of. I recently had the great privilege of attending and participating in a ceremony with a woman who I absolutely adore, whose name is Grandmother Sasa, who is an Abenaki, Irish, Scottish, and Japanese. She is a global elder, wisdom keeper, dreamer, that is working to help us all as human beings become our better selves. And I participated in a twice yearly ceremony called the Medicine Hoop of Life. And this is not an event like so many humans think of, that you go to something and that you're an observer and that you're not really participating in, but you go because you might be curious. No, this is not the purpose of it. It is for days before and days after, preparing yourself to become aware, preparing and opening yourself and readying yourself physically, emotionally, mentally, to broaden your capacity to understand how you can be a leader in your own life. And I do mean in your own life. How do we hold ourselves accountable to what we do? How do we hold ourselves honest, scrupulously honest with what we do and what we say and how we are? Because it is so common for any media, any ongoing political agenda is to blame the other, to gang up in a gang mentality and look at others as the source of a problem and thereby exacerbate the challenge. Now we have to look at, there's a reason that we are here in this life at this time. There is something that uniquely you, uniquely I, am meant to contribute to help life be more workable. To honor the work that has been done for the last 7 generations. And to understand, if we're able, how those individuals with whom we have been influenced, by whom we have been influenced, have contributed to the way we think. And has that been helpful? Has that been productive? And what can we do for the next 7 generations yet to come, for them to have the wisdom and the courage and the dignity to step away from unworkable ways of being in the world and learn to be collaborative human beings. So, in preparation for this Medicine Hoop of Life ceremony that I was a privilege to be a part of and to witness and to be honored to be there, is to see and witness how many, many people have dedicated the entirety of their life to waking people up to their own potential. As a healer, we can see, and I see, as people in medicine, as people in litigation, as people in governance, we believe that everything must be problematic because that is what we have witnessed, that is what we have experienced in our life. Imagine if we learned to think differently and not created problems, but rather learned how to mature and grow so that what is in our lives we are working with, so that the challenges and the problems that we ourselves as human beings have created can begin to fade away from our constant focus. We see the division of political beliefs. We have seen and we continue to see the haves and the have-nots. And we have to be very careful to recognize that no one is deserving of being hungry. No one is deserving of being harmed. No one is deserving of being a slave. No one is deserving of being asked to look the other way when trauma happens, or illegal, unkind, detrimental activity happens. We're in this time that is called the time of the prophecy of change. So as we are changing, as we are maturing, ceremony helps us to move in that direction. Ceremony is the conscious and willful decision to take the time to appreciate life, to take the time to look at what you feel and honestly ask yourself why. Look at what you say and what you do and honestly ask yourself why. Look at what you're experiencing physically, emotionally, mentally, in your families, in your interpersonal relationships, in your community, in your state, in your country, and ask why. We have atrocities happening everywhere, and we need to ask why. Why have we stepped away from the ceremony of appreciating life and everyone, creation and creator, gave us our lives? We are not smart enough to do any single thing in regard to creating life, to creating atoms, to creating the food that is wholesome and healthy. We have interrupted natural systems. We have played in laboratories to make things more profitable, but not necessarily more wholesome, not necessarily supportive of life, but perhaps supportive of an industry or the money-making potential behind something. But always, if that is the singular focus, there will be shortcuts, there will be damage done. So ceremony is a gift that you give yourself to open yourself to the potentials that your life has. And we have an opportunity in that moment, and it could be and can be every moment in your life. As you're reading words, why do you feel the way you feel about what you're reading? Is it causing you to be aware of what is not workable, or does it make you feel that things are good and what can be done to make it better? We have many ways that ceremony can occur, and it often is private. It often is an opportunity to just pause for a moment and be reflective. One way that I find for myself that I really enjoy in a kind of ceremony that I do, believe it or not, is to cut the lawn. I love to sit on the tractor on our almost 2 acres of land that we've lived here for nearly 43 years and appreciate the land and marvel at the fact that this earth is in the time of seasonal change, that the leaves are falling, and they're not just work that we have to do to pick up leaves, but they're mature. They're helping for the earth to mature and to maintain the cycle of life, so that as these beautiful leaves change color and fall, that they help to enrich the earth. It's all a matter of perspective. As I was last night driving the tractor, thinking about all of the millions upon millions upon millions upon millions of single blades of grass on the property that we have, our home. And what one single blade of grass is able to do to help to contribute to beauty, to the softness as you walk on the land, the richness of the color. It's participant in creating oxygen. Even a blade of grass is creating oxygen. all of these things that we could easily see as drudgery, see as one more thing to do, instead of saying, wow, look at this. There are more humans on the planet than in one single patch of lawn. And yet this lawn has the tenacity and the ability to continue to grow. So as I cut my lawn, I was actually grateful because I knew that our land is alive because the grass is growing. And it makes me laugh and it makes me smile. And as the tractor engine is rumbling, it helps me to be aware of my body, that and the intellect of other human beings to be able to create a machine that I can use to maintain where I live in the way that I think it looks nice, or others wouldn't. They'd let it go wild. So there's deepening and deepening and deepening that is possible when we create ceremony, when we thank life for participating with us, when we thank life for allowing us to be here, and going out and not begrudging the change of the season. How we could be in our own small thinking, think that a rainstorm is somehow bothering our ability to play a game outside, to golf, or to take a walk, instead of saying, wow, without this rain, this vegetation would not be here. I would not be here. So we have been entrained to believe that the world and life is human-centric, meaning that everything should proceed from our desires, that we are the only ones that matter. And this divisiveness has created the challenges that we witness today. Last night, as I was watching television after relaxing, I was watching on the History Channel about the engineering feats that created what we call the industrial world, and how in order to be an industrial giant, in order to have wealth and prestige and power, people are willing to destroy lives. And it was sad to me to see how, yes, we're so grateful that we have, for instance, this particular episode was about the railroads that go across the country, crisscross the world, crisscross the continent, I should say. And yes, it has brought wonderful opportunities for travel and for trade and many things. But how many lives were snuffed out as a result of that drive to go across lands that we did not know how to protect, or to see human beings as expendable, that there was a willingness to allow people to die in order to do things. And it really brought home to me a deeper level of understanding of what we give ourselves permission to do for our own benefit. I'm sure there would have been a way, perhaps, for much of our industrial things to happen in a more collaborative way without as much damage, or the mitigation of damage, or the respect for the lives that were in different places. But how do we do that still today? If we participate in witnessing things and doing nothing to try to encourage people to be better, happier, more loving, that we can either work collaboratively or lovingly walk away. So there are so many things that we have to learn as human beings. And ceremony is one such way to begin to have a deeper communication and connection with life so that we participate with life in different ways. And I think that that is where we're at today. So we only have about probably 8 minutes left, 6 minutes left. But I'd like to encourage you to take the time throughout your day. You don't have to take a long time, but you can. And just stop for a moment and pay attention to what you're doing. Are you contributing? Are you breaking things down? Are you making life difficult? Are you making life workable? Are we working together to ensure the continuation of our living world so that lives can thrive? Are we making sure that we don't harm ourselves, one another, our families, our communities, our country, our world? We can never, ever really be separate from anything. And ceremony is one such way. We can learn to embrace what needs to change, what needs to be examined, so that we can open a space within our minds and in our hearts to allow thoughts to come to us that are more participatory, that are more collaborative, that are more open and inclusive and loving. Life is not easy at times, but life is meant for us to grow. Life is meant for us to really do our best, to know that we are not promised anything. And when we acknowledge that a day has begun and we are privileged to participate in that day, then we can walk through that day and walk with our thoughts, our emotions, our actions, and be so much more mindful of what we're doing. Are we doing something because we want acknowledgement, or are we doing something because it's the right thing to do? Are we doing something to help soothe the pain of others, or are we contributing to it? Are we honest and open about ways to mitigate challenges, or are we creating challenges? None of us are perfect, but we are here to learn. We are here to learn. We are here to learn how to be better people. We are learn how to make safety and respect and collaboration and community commonplace, even in the midst of challenging times like this pandemic time. In fact, this time has been an opportunity for many people have taken the opportunity to examine what's happening in their lives and how they are. Is it helping them where they are? Is it detrimental? So it is up to us to learn how to be more mature, more inclusive, more loving, more supportive, more willing to change what needs to change, to walk away from something that is not workable so that we can embrace new possibilities. Look around in your own life, but before you do, before you point a finger, before you judge, honestly look at, is this good? Is this creative? Is it helpful? Is it bringing people together to work to make life better for all? We all are here because we all have to learn how to contribute. It's the reason we're born. We are given this opportunity to begin to affect a change for the better. Every moment is a ceremony. Every moment we are choosing, every moment we are thinking, we're dreaming, we're resting, we're participating in life, with life, because creation has provided this life. And it is up to us to begin to understand, what are we going to do with it? How are we going to make sure that people are comfortable and have what they need so they can thrive? No one is better than anyone else. And it is time also to stand in the truth of witnessing when something is not workable, to speak about it openly and lovingly, if you can, so that a new possibility can unfold. Wounds can heal. Divisions can be stopped or reconciled. It's up to us. So I want to thank you for listening today. I'm Elaine Grohman. You're welcome to go to my website, elainegrohman.com. I will be offering workshops. I have an upcoming workshop October 23rd and 24th to teach people about this phenomenon called energy medicine. What is it, and how do we interact with the world in different ways so that we can become more active participants with life? And I want to thank the entire team of Empower Radio and those who helped me produce Earth Wisdom Circles, so that we can open the hearts and minds of everyone who listens. Thank you very much. This is Elaine Grohman. Go out and make it a good day.